Hello, I'm Shane, Farmer Shayne, and this is Fiery Junior Farm, and we are going to do a soil test today. Soil has different components. It is the basis for growing anything. It's where all the nutrients come from. Well, part of the nutrients, some come from the air, but it is where the plants get all their food and water, and so it's a really critical part of the farm. We have to take care of the soil, nourish the soil, build new soil, always be improving the soil so that our plants are stronger. When you have strong soil, then your plants grow stronger and they resist pests and disease that might come to the plants much better as well because they're stronger. When plants are weak because of poor soil, they get damaged more easily by pests and disease and plant diseases. So there are four basic components of soil. There are kind of different sizes of particles. The smallest particle is clay, a very fine particle. Think about flour, it's kind of that consistency. And silt is just a little bit bigger, a little grittier. And then sand, you guys have probably handled sand before, it's very gritty. So a good soil will have kind of an evenish mix of those things. The other fourth part is organic matter. That's dead and decaying plant tissue. So when plants die, they break down through both chemicals that are existing in water, and also from insects and bacteria that break down those particles. They're the main component. So we want those good bacteria and bugs to live in the soil to break down the plant matter so that it gives new nutrients to the soil, and we don't have to add a lot of chemical fertilizers to the soil, which can be a problem sometimes. And so our soil is a little bit different here, but we can do a simple soil test that will show what kind of soil we have. Okay, so we'll start with a jar. We just got a good old mason jar with a lid and a trowel, which is like a little shovel. We're going to walk over to the field and we'll dig us up some soil. So you can see this is right where we're planting. We've got some carrots and some lettuce, some radishes over here, all kinds of stuff in the soil. But this is right where we plant stuff. So I will dig it up here. I just want one good scoop. That should be enough. Then we'll come over here and we're going to add a little bit of water. So I got my water in there, and I'm going to secure the lid. And then I'm going to shake it. So what I'm doing is I'm loosening up all that soil and I'm letting all the particles float in the water. And I'm now going to let it sit for a while, and we'll come back and look at it in maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And what will happen is the heaviest particles, the sand, will settle out of the water first and be at the bottom. Then the next biggest particles, the silt, will settle in a layer above them. The clay will take longer to settle and will kind of, a lot of the time, even stay in the water for a much longer time. We might need to leave it for a day to get all the clay to settle out. And then organic matter will either settle on top of that or float, depending on how woody it is. Okay, so we'll set this aside right over here, and we'll check on it in about 15-20 minutes. Okay, so we've let our soil sample sit undisturbed for 20 minutes or so, and so the layers have settled out of the water based on the size of the particles. The biggest, heaviest particles are the sand. So you'll see a layer down here that's sand. And it goes to about the bottom of my finger right here. Then there's another dark layer right here on top of it. That will have a little bit of silt in it, but it's mostly actually organic matter. The heavier, chunky organic matter. And then the brown chocolate milk look here is the clay. That's a little thin layer of the clay starting to build up if I don't shake it too much. But our soil is very sandy, which is unusual for a lot of soils in this area. A lot of soils in this area are more clay rich. And so for both those kind of soils, there's pluses and minuses. I should say what's floating at the top here is all the unbroken down, kind of chunky plant, woody material that floats. So because we have sandy soil doesn't hold as many nutrients as clay soil or make them available to the plants as well, but it allows for drainage. It allows for the water to pass through relatively quickly so that the plants in a rainy period aren't sitting in water. In the summer, that means we have to water a little bit more, and so we have to make adjustments. But to make all that better, we add a lot of compost to the soil. Compost being plant matter that's broken down to provide the nutrients for the soil and texture. And so the compost mixed in the sand makes for a really good soil because it holds the water well enough, but lets a lot of it go through and provides nutrients for the soil. But it does mean we have to add a lot of compost. So every time we plant, we add a thin layer of compost on top to help give nutrients to the plant. But all of this we do rather than add a lot of chemical fertilizer, which can cause issues in the environment. And this is a little bit better way. But what's really important is to know is that we think of the soil first. We build strong, healthy soil, and that makes our plants better. That's super critical, super important for your garden or your farm, is that you have good soil for growing plants.